Hello and welcome to week 4. In terms of feedback from last week, just a few things that I noticed. Overall, things went well. In terms of the survey discussion form, a lot of you didn't get complete credit because you didn't give complete responses to other people's posts. So if we look at the assignment, remember the goal was to critically evaluate questions, the other people's questions. So if you didn't give constructive feedback or if you just answered the questions, you didn't get full credit. Basically, the way the scoring worked, you could get up to 10 points for your initial post and up to 2 points for each response. For your initial post, the main thing I was looking for was that your survey items fit the response scales and that the questions would distinguish between people who are addicted to Facebook versus everyday users. On the Chapter 5 test, a lot of you got questions about sampling method of the survey instructors wrong. Just going to people's offices, whoever happens to be on campus, would be a convenient sample. And in order to have a really better high-quality sample, you would need a simple or stratified random sample. Going down to review Chapter 6. For Chapter 6 in general, I saw a lot of mistakes on things that we had covered in Chapter 2. So remember that a hypothesis is a statement that describes specific expected direction of results. Also, when I ask you for an independent or dependent variable, you need to only have that and not any other information in your response. If you have other information and I can't tell what is the independent variable or the dependent variable in your response, I'm going to mark it wrong. So if you did poorly on the short answers for the test or for Chapter 6 assignments, I'd really encourage you to go back and review. The stuff we're covering this week, you continue to need to really understand the independent and dependent variable in order to get. So go back and review that stuff so that you're on top of it. You also had your final project summaries due. I'm going to be grading those throughout the week, so look for your feedback on Moodle. This week you're going to submit your final project proposal, follow-up proposal. If we go back to your final project assignment, it looks like this, and the details for your follow-up proposal are on here. In your follow-up, you should include either a new construct that was not assessed in the original study or change the methodology to a different type of experimental design. The key here is that your results in your follow-up should be different than the results in your original study. Your follow-up should provide some kind of new information about the topic. The write-up should be 2 to 3 pages double-spaced, and it should address in the introduction information about the constructs, operational definitions, and hypotheses. Then, just like in your summary, you should provide details about the method, including experimental design. Based on your design, your results will describe what types of analyses would be done if you had conducted the study, and what you would expect to find in terms of the independent and dependent variables if the study were actually conducted. So you don't actually have to do the study, but I want you to talk about it hypothetically as if you had done the study, but you get to make up the results. Finally, you should discuss the importance of the follow-up study, if it were conducted and if you found what you expected to find, and what that new information would add from the previous study. So that's your final project progress, and then this week we're going to cover 2 chapters on experimental design. Chapter 7, and note that you don't have to read all of the pages for that. We'll cover repeated measures or experiments where the same participants do all levels of the independent variable. There's an audio lecture, a short assignment, and your test. Chapter 8 covers complex designs, which, as the name suggests, is a little more challenging. Basically, these are designs where you have multiple independent variables. In addition to the PowerPoint and audio lecture, I've also posted some recommended assignments. They're the stretching exercises from your book, and they're great practice for concepts that will be on your assignments and tests, so I really strongly encourage you to try them out. Since it's not a graded assignment, basically what you need to do is look at the figures and answer these 5 questions for each one. And since it's not officially an assignment, I've included an answer key right here in the Word document. So if I were you, I would try out 1 or 2, look at the answer key, and then based on the answers, try the others. Once you finish those, you have to do the Bolduc and demand reading, and then you have an assignment based on that reading. And then you also have another additional assignment, and finally you'll have the test. So as always, let me know if you have questions. This is a challenging week, so I'd encourage you to start early and ask questions if you have them. Have a great week.